Hi, everyone. It's Christopher, Mono County Library Director and co-host of the Oxygen Starved podcast. Now, we're in the middle of the holiday season with Hanukkah and the solstice just behind us, Christmas, Kwanzaa, and New Year's just ahead of us. So for Book Talk Friday this time, I thought I'd pick one of my favorite holiday story collections. Holidays on Ice by David Sedaris. This came out in 1997 and has become a Christmas staple. This is a short collection of Christmas-themed stories, the most famous of which is his Santaland Diaries, which is an embellished story of his stint as Crumpet the Elf at Santaland and Macy's department store in New York. It's a mix of self-deprecating humor and wry observations of what it's really like to work at the world's most famous department store Santa operation. He hits on the hijinks of the other elves and the Santas, but he holds special place for the crazy antics of the parents and children themselves. Other stories in this collection include One Mother's unbelievable Christmas family newsletter and Neighbors in an ever-escalating war of the giving spirit. These stories are satire with narrators who are not necessarily meant to be sympathetic, such as the theater critic who writes scathing reviews of children's Christmas pageants. If you like Gene Shepard's A Christmas Story, either the short stories or the ridiculously funny 1983 movie version, you'll probably like Holidays on Ice. I would caveat that while Santaland Diaries itself has been made into a popular high school play, other stories in this collection are definitely aimed at older readers as Sedaris pokes fun at Christmas cultural and consumer excesses right and left, and sometimes reflects that our use of language has changed even in the 30 years since that first story was published. Now, as you can see, we have it in audiobook format, which I recommend because while his sister, comedian Amy Sedaris, helps narrate some of it, Santaland Diaries is best heard from the horse's mouth, especially when a department store Santa turns to a tired and bored Crumpet the Elf, demanding he help the shy young girl in Santa's lap sing her favorite Christmas carol, which Crumpet obligingly does, livening it up a little by doing it in his best imitation of Billie Holiday, that alcohol-infused jazz great from the 50s. Santa didn't let him finish. Now, Santaland Diaries put Sedaris on the map in the early 90s, and he's still at it, publishing essays and stories and diaries, a bit like a modern-day Will Rogers. His newest just came out in October, and it's called A Carnival of Snackery, his diaries from 2003 and 2020. These years cover a more mature Sedaris from his 40s into his 60s, but that incessant curiosity, sense of humor, and warm love for his family are still there. The title comes from an entry in 2013 when his friends sent him a photo they took of a menu at an Indian restaurant that offered a carnival of snackery, which is a great title. By this phase in his life, he has homes in France, the UK, and the US, and is often out on book tour. So his entries follow him from small-town book signings in the Midwest to Paris to Tokyo and all points beyond. He's famous at these signings for asking the people in line a random question, such as, when is the last time you touched a monkey? And the surprising answer to that is chronicled here, as are any number of off-color jokes people share with him at these signings, another Sedaris tradition. Also still there is his penchant for publishing his own foibles, including an entry in which at one of these signings, a woman presents him with a beautiful old manual typewriter, and knowing it's too heavy to carry on the book tour, she kindly arranges to have it shipped to his home in Paris. After the tour ended, he wasn't yet back in Paris, but he faked a thank you letter to her for the typewriter, saying he'd be using it right now, only it's back in Paris. Then he forgets about it, and weeks later he arrives at his other apartment in the UK to find a letter from her saying she'd received the thank you letter but hadn't yet shipped the typewriter, basically catching him out on his little white lie. Typical Sedaris awkwardness. He closes that entry with a remark from his sister Amy, who suggests he write back asking, well, if you didn't send me that typewriter, who did? Trust me, it's funnier in print. His family and friends and random strangers he observes on his travels all make appearances here in amusing and sometimes poignant entries that go right up to the beginning of the pandemic. His uniquely wry voice comes across throughout, like that little voice in our heads documenting all the what the heck moments we have in life. Only Sedaris makes money at it. This is Carnival of Snackery, Diaries by David Sedaris. This is Holidays on Ice by David Sedaris. Both great books available at Mono County Libraries. Come and find them, or another book to keep you occupied when you're off the slopes or off your snowshoes this holiday season. In the meantime, stay safe, happy holidays, and happy reading.